All right, we're live.
Hey,
Okay.
thanks for hanging in there. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties. We apologize, but we're just about ready to get going here.
And we have your questions. We'll get to them for sure.
All right, let's just give us a couple of seconds, see if we can get Mikey in here, and then we'll get rolling.
This is what taking off all summer will do you. A lot to talk about, though. A lot.
Thank God, I can't wait.
A lot to squeeze into, 45 to 50 minutes. So if we speed talk at times, just try to keep up.
All right, yeah, I got it, Rich.
All right.
Do.
All right, so let's try this one more time.
Let's get going. That's my Adam Sandler voice. You like that?
Yeah, it's all right. It's not too bad.
The Dump and Chase podcast. I like that. I like that new screen there. Although that shift in power is no longer. It's we play for you now, but
Yeah, no.
we kind of lost that.
Actually, it makes more sense to say shift in power this season.
Better be a damn shift in power. Better be a shift in something.
All right.
Never said the shift was a good shift, but it was.
This is true.
We're gonna have to call Mike. So.
Yep. Oh,
It's weird because I see the blue box come up. It says the Dump and Chase podcast invited people to this call, so I know you're inviting them.
Yeah, I'm definitely doing it. I don't know why he's not getting it.
remember he has two emails. One of them is Michael Dot, and the other one is without. The one without,
Of course, he would have two emails.
Wait, so which one am I sending it to?
Michael Dot, Wilhoff at Gmail.
Let me try it one more time.
Of course, he would have two.
I didn't realize that until recently. What the hell? Why would he have one? I mean, that would actually be normal. All right, I have my pen over here, my paper,
Uh-oh, look out.
and my feeble knowledge of hockey.
Look out. Pen and paper. Look out.
I can draw my.
All right, I tried sending to that one. All right, so we have two questions. We're definitely gonna get to. We started a questions and answers hangout today. So if you guys have questions to ask, feel free to ask them over on the side.
I can't stand him.
Did you see Mike's question?
Yeah, I see it.
Michael asks, "Hi guys, long-time listener, first-time caller. Love your show. Anyways, why is Google terrible?" Well, Michael,
It actually is. It was that one time. Remember when I got freezed out of the show, and
I was frozen out a few times myself before you guys realized that it wasn't my stupidity, but rather Google's.
Hangouts is a really good program if you can get in.
If it works. Mike, I sent you one more invite if you want to try it. If not, I'll call you right now.
Can we please get started, please?
No, why would we get started? That would make sense.
Please.
This,
Why is Wolf the worst?
This dumbass.
And I'm gonna get rid of those though, so they're not they're not clogging up
Clogging up the queue.
queue of questions.
Clog up the queue.
I gotta open the chat to get his number though, so I can call him.
I already gave you that number.
Yeah, but it was in the chat.
All right.
I almost read it out loud. That would have been bad.
Alright. Can we please start, please, right now?
Nope. Wait, hold on. Apparently, to a live one, we can't call a phone number.
Why? You did it before.
Oh, not to a live one. We've only done it on just closed Hangouts.
Barry goes, clearly Google is on IR.
Can he call us?
Can you call the 718-395 puck number?
No, that's down. That's why I don't have the scroll going.
All right. Well, look, I mean, I'm sorry, but we got to get going.
All right, we'll get started, and then I'm gonna send him another invite, and hopefully
Send him an invite every minute. He's bound to get one. He's bound to get. Send it to like his email, his Twitter, mail him one to his home, carrier pigeon that shit over. Eventually, he's gonna get one in some way, shape, or form.
One day we'll get it right.
Mike, check both your emails.
I think this is all Mike's fault, personally.
I don't think Mike doesn't want to be on.
Yeah. I mean, because I keep seeing Shane. I see the blue box that says you're inviting him, so I know you're inviting him. Why it's not coming through to him, I have no idea.
Okay, let's do this. Roll.
We got to start. People are waiting. Let's get started.
We are important people. Let's go. It's an important show.
Shane, comprende?
All your New York Islanders news and expert Islanders analysis from the fourth line in Bridgeport to the first line in Long Island. This is the Dump and Chase podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dump and Chase podcast. I am Shane Blackburn. Alongside me, as always, Andy Graziano. You could follow him at Tasman19. Rich Diaz Rodriguez, who you could follow at RDNHL. Unfortunately, today, for some reason, we are having trouble getting Michael Wilhoft in here, so we are at Michael Wilhoft list for this present moment. But hopefully we get him in here, as I keep sending him invites, so we're definitely putting the ball on him for this one.
Oh, I just gave an invite to my son. He's currently driving to Michael's house in Brooklyn to personally drop it off. So it's a really nice invite, too. It's got a nice envelope with a nice bow around it, so we'll see if he can get in that way. We'll go old school. We'll go manual on him.
But Mike, the invites are out, so you should definitely go check your email and get in here so we can.
Or call Google. Call Google. Get Google on the phone.
Call the Google.
Call the Google. Anyway, Barry, yes, we are stuck in preseason, Barry. Thanks for observing that. We are very much stuck in preseason. This is what taking a whole summer off does to you.
But we have a ton of New York Islanders stuff to get to. Obviously, today the NHL starts with 4 games on the slate. 2 of them already started. The first goal of the NHL season for 2014-15 scored by Max Pacioretty of the Montreal Canadiens, but then it was quickly tied up by Toronto, so thank God.
Toronto's currently undefeated, by the way.
So are the Islanders. So are the Islanders. Thank God it is hockey season.
And we are the only show in town Friday night, boys. 1 game on the slate, and that is us.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, though, guys.
When I turned the Bruin game on, I kept looking for Johnny Boychuk. Is he injured? Is he on is he on the IR for? Oh, wait a minute. We have him. Silly me. Silly me.
Well, obviously we have to talk about the 2 huge moves Garth Snow made to bring in 2 fantastic defensemen that I think could help push this team over the edge. We have to talk about the line combinations that we were given, defensive pairings, the fact that we have a 1-2 punch of goalies that is better than I think the Islanders have had in a very long time. I mean,
ever?
Possibly ever. I'm hard-pressed to think of a time where we had a better 1-2 punch in the net than we have right now.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm trying very hard. I know it's exciting and everyone's amped up, but I'm trying to not get ahead of myself. Look, the games are won on the ice. They're not won on paper. So, right now the additions of Boychuk and Leddy, the goaltending tandem of Halak and Johnson, it's all positive stuff. It's all exciting stuff. It all makes us look forward to Friday night. But at the same time, this team still has to go out there and perform. They still have to go out there and do their jobs. They still have to go out there and follow a legitimate system implemented by the coaching staff. And I think that at this point is going to be the biggest question. The focus has shifted now from is the roster good enough to is the coaching good enough, in my opinion.
I think more coaching. I think, like we spoke about last night, Andy, I mean, the excuses are running thin, and I think the leash is short. We always mentioned the fact that Cappy didn't have the right tools at the right time, or people were getting injured at the wrong time. You have a very, very lucrative team on paper, a very exciting team to rally around. I think that it's time to see if Capuano has the talent and the ingenuity and the innovativeness to bring this team, like Shane says, over the top, because a team doesn't bring itself without the help of a coach over the top. So I'm with you, Andy. I'm very excited to see what's in store, but I am tempering my expectations, like I said earlier today. The Islanders are for me until the month of January a bubble team at best.
Well, for me, I think they went from a bubble team to a probable team, and that's on paper. Again, I say that, I can't stress that enough. That's on paper, because I think, and it's really an almost impossible thing to determine. You know, I know that it's talked about a lot on social media, but for even us who are in the media, and for fans who go to the games and see a lot of Islanders hockey, right? It's almost an impossible thing to determine. I mean, you really have to sit back. Let's say the Islanders get off to a poor start. Let's just say, and you really have to sit down and like analyze tape to correctly determine whether it's coaching and systems or whether it's the players just not getting the job done on the ice. You could have a great coach that comes in and puts in a really awesome forecheck and really good neutral zone system, excellent breakout, good power play scheme, and you could have a team of players who just don't execute. And I think that's the really difficult thing when people the last year or so have been asking us, what about the coaching, what about the coaching, what about the coaching? That's why it's so difficult for us to comment on that angle, in my opinion.
What do you think, Shane?
That's a tough one to touch. I might stay away from that.
Coward.
No, but talking about Capuano, I think he has a shorter leash this year than he's had in a long time. I think that this year it like you guys said, it is no longer a question of what does the roster look like. It's now a question of what can Capuano and Doug Weight do with the roster they're given.
Yeah.
So we've already seen the beginning of how they are going to mold this roster. We have the line combinations and defensive pairings. Obviously, we have two key players and a third high-quality player on IR to start the season. So that's going to be a little bit of a hindrance throughout putting the lineup together for the coaches, and it's kind of going to put a little bit of a halt on us judging the coaches, and by us I mean all of Islander fans, not just us in particular. It is hard to judge an NHL coach. You can never put yourself in their shoes. You don't know what they know. You don't know why they make the certain decisions that they make.
Uh-huh.
But I think that this is going to be a do or die early season for Jack Capuano. If the Islanders start off slow, like they are known to do, if we go through a terrible November, like they are known to do, I don't know if Jack Capuano makes it through the first 2-3 months of this season.
I don't think he does.
Performing.
Yeah.
We have an impossibly, well, not impossibly, that's a ridiculous thing to say. Shame on me. We have a very difficult November schedule, which includes 3 straight Friday, Saturday back-to-backs.
And exactly. I mean, Andy, sorry to interrupt, but I think we talked about this last night. I think that if Capuano can't make it out of November above 500, what's to say that, I mean, it's if you can't get out of November with the schedule that you have, with the adversity you're facing in November, then you have nothing left in the tank.
No, then you're going to see probably Dan Bylsma coach this team in December.
Yeah. Something crazy like that, absolutely.
It's the only one out there, for my money.
Now, do we looking at that now, do we see that happening, or do we think Jack Capuano has what it takes behind the plate?
I'm not going to get I'm not going to get pigeonholed to that kind of question because it's impossible to say.
Yeah, it's very difficult. But I will say this. Andy pointed this out the other day. I noticed this. We've all noticed this. Those who have watched the games, very little chemistry at all on this team, and that's something that needs to be said. We're very excited about Boychuk and Leddy, but we can't fail to realize that the Islanders were completely destroyed by the Bruins not too long ago. Even if it is preseason, I just don't see chemistry. It's no surprise that Conacher's on the top line because he is fast. But I don't think, like Andy said, I don't think these lines are written in stone. Everything's in flux.
Oh, absolutely not. There's no way these lines are written in stone, Richard. And let's take a look at the chemistry of it. Let's take a look at our top 3 lines.
All right.
So out of your there's 9 forwards on your top 3 lines. And out of those 9 forwards, 3 of them weren't on the team at all last year. And 1 of them played, 30 games?
Yeah.
So it's extremely hard to develop that kind of chemistry during camp. That chemistry is going to come these middle weeks here in October, the first couple of weeks of the season, when Conacher is going to get a chance to prove to the coaching staff that he belongs on that first line for more than just a look here in the first couple of games of the season, where Nelson has the opportunity to earn that second center spot and keep it. Although I don't think if they move Nelson, I don't see it being a demotion. I see him just getting promoted to Conacher's spot if Nelson moves out of that center spot. But the names in the top 9 that I'm looking at for the Islanders that have to worry about earning a spot, and I say spot with quotations, and worrying about chemistry, Grabovski and Kulemin have to work on chemistry. Obviously, Grabovski's playing with Nelson and Strome, so those are 2 players that he's never played with before. Kulemin, same situation. Bailey and Nielsen, 2 players he has to get used to playing with. It's going to take some time. But my eye's on Ryan Strome, because Michael Grabner's on the IR. He's not going to be there for 82 games. So this is Ryan Strome's chance to earn his keep, and essentially I see it going one of 2 ways. When Grabner comes off of the IR, I see either Strome or Bailey taking the plunge off of the team. So the first couple of weeks is going to be Strome's time to earn his keep and show that he belongs at the NHL level in a top 6 role.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So all of that will come. I don't expect. I think a lot of Islander fans are expecting us to come out Friday night and roll the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, is that possible because they're missing like 9 quarters of their team? Absolutely.
9 quarters? Does that make
That's the new math.
They're missing.
It's always been terrible at math. But
which Stahl? They're missing Jordan Stahl, right?
Jordan Stahl and
Jeff
Skinner. So as I said it to Rich, they're missing half of their core 4, with the other 2 being Eric Stahl and Alexander Semin. So you have to come out and stomp your foot on a team like that. You have to come out, in my opinion, you got to win those games back to back against a team that has those 2 quality players out of the lineup.
But now it's going to take some time for this Islanders team to build that chemistry. Yes, on paper, this is the best Islanders team on paper I have seen.
The preseason was crappy. It was crappy. I don't care what the record said. It was crappy. Tavares is still rounding into shape.
Which is expected.
Which is expected considering all the time off he had. And you're right. I mean, nobody seemed to click. We saw a flash. You know, we saw some good camps from players individually, but as units, I don't think I saw anything that has me convinced that any one of these lines is set in stone at this point.
I think it would be foolish to expect any of these lines to be set in stone.
Yeah.
This early in the season. I think that goes for any team, not just the fact that we have new players on the team. I think that goes for even if we didn't have new players, even if this was the same team that we had last year. I think it would have been foolish to think. I'm sorry, I just got really confused by the weird question we got.
I saw that. Yeah, I don't know what that. We got to. That could be. I don't know if that's spam.
We can get rid of that. But I think it would be foolish to think that any NHL team has their line set in stone week 1, game 1.
Let's actually get to some of these questions, and we'll take about 25, 30 seconds each. So each question should only take about a minute and a half to answer. Barry Richmond, who's a long-time loyal listener and reader, and we appreciate that. How you doing, Barry? His first question was, are the Islanders preparing for life after Wisnowski? My opinion is they're not preparing for life after Wisnowski. They are prepared for life after Wisnowski. I think with the pipeline that we have, one of the reasons you saw Ryan Pulak get sent down. I think bringing in Nick Leddy, who we control the rights to next year as a restricted free agent, Griffin Reinhart, I think we're prepared and set up pretty well for life after Viz.
I agree. I think the bold moves that we've seen on defense by Garth Snow indicate that, and agrees with Andy. And I had the pleasure of speaking with Wisnowski in person over camp, and he was very honest and very upfront about his injury, and he said he had a very tough road to recovery, and he is still on the road to recovery. If I were the Islanders and if I were Garth Snow, I would be thinking about life without Wisnowski, and you have to. He's 37 years old, going on 38. And in hockey years, that's a pretty old.
Like 90.
Yeah, and for a defenseman who measures all but 5'11" on skates, and who's not very stocky and very big, that's the game has changed. We all know this. We've spoken about it a million times. Wisnowski, he's a wonderful hockey player, great personality, very very kind, generous person. But I think his days are numbered, unfortunately. I'd love to see a comeback.
All right, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
I'd love to see him play a little bit more, but
Shane, go ahead.
I think they were planning to live without Wisnowski last season. Never mind this season. I think honestly, I think that they were more than ready if he wasn't able to go because of the concussion at the end from last season. Never mind his back now in this season.
Yep.
So, but I would say they're ready where if Wisnowski can't come back or doesn't come back at the same level he was, they're more than ready to move on. Obviously, he would be a huge help to this team, and I think he could be what we need on the defense on the power play. He's obviously a good puck-moving defenseman. He's one of our better defensemen. But I think they're ready to move on. So let's move on to another one of Barry's questions. It says, will Kuhlman be able to produce on the third line, and how much rope does Bailey have?
I'll say I personally mentioned this to Rich last night. I don't like Kuhlman on that line. I think Kuhlman, we haven't seen much from him offensively other than when he was playing with Grabowski. So I don't like him playing with Nielsen and Bailey. I think that's a little bit too defensive of a line, and I think it leaves Franz out in the lurch a little bit. How much rope does Bailey have? Very, very little. Like maybe a knob of rope.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think I thought the whole reason of bringing Grabo along with Kuhlman was to have them play together. But like we said, these lines aren't set in stone. I think it's more of getting a look at what Ryan Strome has to offer than putting Kuhlman on the third line because they don't have any chemistry. I think it's more about let's see what Ryan Strome can do with a talent like Grabowski, and let's see what Nelson can do centering a line with a talent like Grabowski. So it's more of an experiment, I think.
We expected Kuhlman to play with Grabowski. I don't know if that was just blind misconception or what that was. Obviously, that was what we all had in mind when he came over here. But I like him and Nielsen together. I like the chemistry that they could play with, the same kind of defensive kind of game. So I'm interested to see what that third line looks like, and I'm very interested to see Grabowski, Nelson, and Strome play. I think they could all bring the best out in each other. Let's move on to Dylan Gallego, who asks, when Grabner comes off of the IR, what do you think happens? How about for DeHaan, Wisnowski, and Karkner?
Grabner is going to be one of the last ones to come off the IR. I hate to tell everybody that, but he is not even sniffed the ice since his injury, which was at first reported as an upper body injury. It's now been found that it's a lower body injury, which I'm guessing groin hamstring type injury. Hopefully not abdominal, but he's going to be the last one to come off IR, so I don't think we have to worry about that for a little bit. And I think it's clear that a guy like Josh Bailey, as we just mentioned, should definitely worry at that point. DeHaan, Wisnowski, and Karkner. Karkner, I think, is going to get the Joe Finley treatment, while DeHaan and Wisnowski obviously go right back into the lineup, with Donovan, I believe, going down, unfortunately for me. And I think even Griffin Reinhart at that point might go back to the AHL for a bit.
Yeah, I agree with you, Andy. I think, I mean, no, well, now that I know Grabner's the last of the three who are on, yeah, it's sad to see. And I know I don't want to go off on a tangent really quickly here, but even Donovan going back down bothers me as well. We got to let this kid play. We got to see what he's made of, and this is the season to do it. I don't know.
I would say when Grabner comes back, it's either Bailey or Strome that go down, and I think Strome has the potential to earn his stay here. So I think Josh Bailey has to be very worried when he starts to notice that Michael Grabner is getting healthy and getting ready to come back. Bailey needs to have a significantly better start than Strome to keep his spot on this team, in my opinion.
Yep.
As for the defensemen, when DeHaan and Viz come back, I would say Donovan. I would almost say Donovan doesn't get the boot because I think it would be Reinhart and Karkner go down, and DeHaan will still be the seventh defenseman.
Straight too.
Or Straight. I forgot about Brian Straight.
Brian Straight's not in good graces either right now.
So it's a little bit of a complication there when those two come back. We went from worrying about not having enough defense to having too much defense and trying to figure out what to do with them.
Exactly.
I think Reinhart is going to wind up back in Bridgeport by mid-season or whenever DeHaan and Wisnowski come back. So I think we're going to get a look at Griffin Reinhart and show what he can do if we need him to come back up throughout the year and what he's ready to do next year.
Okay, let's see. Barry asks again, this is a real quick answer. We wouldn't even need to roundtable this one. Does Donovan require waivers to go to Bridgeport? Yes, he does. So there is that risk that you can lose a Matt Donovan if you choose to send him to Bridgeport. I can't say whether or not that's a risk that the Islanders are willing to take, but he does need waivers. Barry, again, Isles not playing until Friday and starting on the road. Does that extra time help with chemistry systems and IR issues? Doesn't help with the IR issues at all. Does it help with system and chemistry? It's a couple of extra days practice. At the end of the day, they're going to have to jump into these games and unfortunately take the first 2 or 3 to see exactly what they got and where they are, because I know as being a player and a coach that there's absolutely no way you can fully simulate a game situation in practice, no matter how many times you go over it.
Obviously, I don't think it does much for the IR situation because we don't know how long they have on the IR, and I think 2 or 3 days doesn't make that big of a difference. If it was 2 or 3 days, they wouldn't have been put on the IR. I think they would have just sent someone else down and kept them around. So I would say that the IR doesn't really play a factor. Chemistry, I'm sure it does, but that we'll just have to wait and see what we could do with that on Friday.
Yep.
Let's jump off of the questions for a couple minutes. We'll come back. So Tom, Pete, and Barry's final question. Don't worry, we will get back to you. Anybody else wants to ask a question, go ahead and ask it in the questions and answers section. We'll get to it a little bit later in the show. But let's jump back into talking about the Islanders specifically, and let's talk about the moves that were made this past week and how I almost caused a scene at the store when I read my Twitter. And obviously, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about, but obviously I'm talking about the acquisitions of Johnny Boychuk and Nick Leddy. Boychuk, obviously, from Boston for draft picks, 2 draft picks, and then a conditional pick as well. And then Leddy for a bunch of prospects. We also got I think something that goes under the radar is that we also got an AHL goalie in return in that deal for Leddy. So we kind of just swapped Nilsson, and why can't I remember his name? I have it here too, but we just swapped minor league goaltenders in that deal in order to bring a high-quality defenseman into the fold to help this team throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that Rich and I spoke about on this podcast over the summer. One of our last shows in June before we went on hiatus, Johnny Boychuk was the get. Johnny Boychuk was always the get. I just never thought we'd get him. That's the truth. He was the guy that I wanted. He was the stay-at-home defenseman who could provide you a little bit of offense, rocket shot from the point, extremely physical, extremely responsible. And you know what? The guy's a winner. The guy's a winner on the ice. He's a winner off the ice. His attitude is perfect for this team. Already today we're seeing quotes out of him like, look around this room. We are ready, and that's the kind of confidence that this team needs. That's the kind of motivation that this team needs. You are what you believe you are at times. And to hear Boychuk saying those things just goes to show you why he was the perfect get. And for me, Nick Leddy's a bonus, man. 23-year-old American defenseman with untapped offensive potential, restricted free agent, so he controls his rights. To get him for what we got him for was just an absolute steal. When I first started writing, I was covering the Blackhawks. I've been actually following the Hawks ever since they drafted Patrick Kane in 2007. Everybody knows that by now. So I've gotten to see Nick Leddy a lot, and this is a guy that is going to make his mistakes, but Islander fans are going to love him in terms of his offensive potential, his power play potential. He was being underutilized by Quenneville in Chicago. That is not going to happen here, and I believe we're going to really see this kid live up to his potential. So 2 absolutely huge moves. Huge moves.
I'm curious to see what Nick Leddy can do with all the responsibility that's going to be put squarely on his shoulders. I think that both Boychuk and Leddy have a lot of responsibility on this team, and I think the fans and the coaches are equally going to be expecting them to just kind of walk into these positions and bring that championship pedigree along with it. I mean,
which they both have.
Right. And Nick Leddy is a baby, but he's played 4 years with a solid organization.
He's played almost 60 playoff games at 23.
I slightly disagree with you, Rich, though. I don't think Leddy is going to shoulder the amount of weight you think he's going to. I think that's going to fall more onto Boychuk, and I think Hamonic is going to be
No. I didn't think they were going to equal. I'm saying that
I know what Rich meant.
And what I'm saying is that for Nick Leddy, let's say, like personally,
he's going to be featured more predominantly and counted on more here than he would have been in Chicago.
He's definitely going to play a bigger role.
Chicago, you can slide behind a Duncan Keith or a Brent Seabrook or a Nicholas Hjalmarsson and kind of get lost in that 3rd, 4th, 5th spot. In New York, there's not going to be that kind of cover.
Yeah. He's going to be the predominant one for the most part.
Right. Offensively, anyway.
And we see that the defensive pairings have Nick Leddy and Johnny Boychuk playing together. So instead of trying to filter them in, the bottom 4 defensemen have chemistry of playing with each other or at least on the same team. But now Leddy and Boychuk will come in and they'll just have to develop chemistry with each other.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what the Islanders, in my mind, did not do and where they let Matt Donovan down last year and so far this year. In that, what are they doing? They're taking an offensively talented guy like Nick Leddy, putting him with a defensively responsible, experienced guy like Johnny Boychuk. Perfect pairing right there because you have the yin to the yang.
That's right.
That's what they did not do with Matt Donovan. They did Matt Donovan an injustice by placing him all the time with Matt Karkner, no offense, and Radek Martinek.
Exactly. So he didn't have the confidence to go into the greasy areas.
And every time he made a mistake, there was no cover.
There was
no cover when he made a mistake.
The points were wide open, and there was a 2-on-1 or a breakaway.
Let's not sugarcoat last year and put the responsibility last year runs deep, from the sub 900 save percentage on of getting Nabokov and Kevin Poulin and Anders Nielsen to the defensemen, including Travis Hamonic, Calvin DeHaan. They all made mistakes last year. It was last year on the defensive side of the puck. That's what cannot happen this year. That'll blow this whole thing up in a country minute.
Well, let's take.
Happens again.
Well, the one good thing about that is, and I just want to say this quick before we get into. I want to look at the opening night lineup really quick. But the one good thing is, if there is a defensive lapse, we have 2 goalies this year who can steal games that we played bad at. We haven't had that in a long time.
Supposedly.
Allegedly.
Right. I'm sorry. No,
you're right, Andy. I'm just saying, I'm agreeing with you with another word.
All right, so let's look at Friday night's opening night lineup. We have our first line of Corey Conacher, John Tavares, and Kyle Okposo.
Shane, just one real quick second. I don't want to demean what you said because I think what you said was very important. I think I was having a conversation about this last night with a Ranger fan who I interact with. Let me say on Twitter. Talk to. That's ridiculous to say that on Twitter, but And even he was saying, "Oh, I think Halak." I said, "Look, I think Halak's going to be a disappointment." He was saying, and I said, "Look, nothing could be worse than a sub 900 save percentage." But at the same time, there is a huge difference in maintaining a 920 to a 930 save percentage when all the shots are from the outside, as opposed to when all the shots are from the slot.
That's right.
So it's still going to be. I agree with you, Shane, that Halak and Johnson are a tremendous upgrade, and what you said before, the best tandem we've seen. Some fans have ever seen.
Yeah.
But the defense still has to do their job. Keep pucks to the outside, clear out rebounds, take guys out in front. They still have to do those things. And if those things don't happen, I'm not sure any goalie outside of Henrik Lundqvist will be able to survive that.
And Shane, and I think Andy made a very valid point, and this is for all the fans listening who are under the age of 30. You guys have never had a team as good as the one you have now.
Agreed.
Oh, absolutely. This is the best Islanders team I've ever seen.
Agreed.
Now, Andy and I were spoiled, right? We had Billy Smith, Roland.
This team is nothing to me compared to what I've seen.
Yeah, exactly. But this is the best team I've seen since that team disappeared and we went through that fisherman.
Correct.
Yeah, whatever.
Correct.
Well, let's take a look at this best team that I've ever seen, and let's look at the first line: Corey Conacher, John Tavares, Kyle Okposo. Like or don't like?
Love it.
Like it because I like the chance that 89 is getting. I always root for the little guy being a fellow little guy, and I think Corey Conacher is a very talented kid. People are trying to slam him. Oh, he's on his fourth team. This one wanted him out. That one wanted him out. Look. He's a talented hockey player, and he busts his tail every single day, every single shift, and he has busted his tail in camp. The spot on the roster he has earned. The spot on the first line, he got given to him by a couple of good shifts in one game. But the spot on this team, he has clearly earned, and he deserves to be here.
People are going to like Corey Conacher's speed. Andy and I got first dibs on that when we saw him in the first day of camp. He is incredibly fast. He reminds me of a faster, much more experienced Casey Cizikas in many ways. And I think that, like Shane, you had mentioned at one point in an email chain, that he has experience playing with talented wingers and talented centers, if you will, like in Stamkos and Marty St. Louis. So why not, Okposo and Tavares? I think it's a good. I mean, we all had said we wanted Brock Nelson, but this is not bad.
I'm going to say exactly what I said in that email chain, and I like this Corey Conacher being given this chance. He's proven he could play with high-end talent. He played with Steven Stamkos and Martin St. Louis. So let's move on to the second line, and that is Grabovski, Nelson, and Strome.
You go, Shane.
I like this. I'm a little. The only reason I'm upset about this is because I was very adamant. I did not think Ryan Strome would be on the 23-man roster, and I was wrong, and I don't like being wrong. Opportunity, and this is the only way I would have been happy with him being on the 23-man roster is if he was going to play top 6 minutes.
Don't like I'm not a fan of saying that a center can't play wing because I feel that as an NHL player you should be accustomed to playing wherever you're needed. I don't think I'm in love with Grabovski on the wing, to be honest with you. I would rather see that. For me, I'd rather see that flipped. I'd rather see Grabovski centering Nelson and Strome.
Absolutely.
I can agree with that. I do think it's weird that we have 3 centers on that line.
It's true.
They're all, you know what they're all going to do? They're all going to do that little curl right in front of Halak on the breakout, and there's going to be nobody on the boards.
I thought it was going to be the most confusing thing ever for the other team's defenseman.
Andy, that's hilarious.
And we're going to have 5 guys in the defensive zone. We're going to have 5 guys in the low to high slot, and nobody covering the points. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess.
No, but I do like that line. I think that line, if they gel, I think they could be a very good line.
And Shane, you said it best. You really put it. Strome on the second line is very much an important thing to happen right now for this team, for this young man to see what he can offer. I agree with you, 100%. This is good. This is good for him, and good for this line.
Line 3.
Line 3, we have Josh Bailey, Franz Nielsen, Nikolai Kulemin.
Don't like it.
Can I say something? We haven't mentioned his name yet, but it should have been Anders Lee, Nielsen, and Kulemin if you're going to.
Agreed.
I can definitely agree with that. Everyone knows that I am a huge fan of Josh Bailey, but I could definitely agree that Anders Lee should be on this line. If not, even if Bailey had a fantastic camp, even if Bailey's camp was better than Lee's, I think Lee belongs on this line because his play style fits better than Josh Bailey.
Yeah.
Franz Nielsen by trade is a passer, not a shooter. All right, forget what you saw out of Franz Nielsen last year.
That's
By
right.
trade, he's a passer. You're now putting him with another passer and someone who, let's face it, we don't know what to expect out of Nikolai Kulemin. I'll say it again, away from Mikhail Grabowski. So I think you're kind of. I don't like that line from an offensive standpoint. I do like it from a defensive standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Rip Josh Bailey all you want, but advanced stats say that defensively, he had a pretty decent year last year on the other side of the puck.
Yep.
And let's look at everybody's favorite fourth line, and that's Matt Martin, Casey Cizikas, and Cal Clutterbuck.
Love it.
Yes.
Best fourth line, I think, in the Eastern Conference.
And this is the line I think is the most solidified of all. This is the one thing that's not going to change for a while, unless it happens.
This is the line that has to work. This is the line that has to do the dirty work, that has to infuse energy into an otherwise lackluster performance one night. This is the line that has to get it done 10 to 12 minutes a night.
And this is where the chemistry is coming from. The energy is coming. This is where it's coming from. This is the base. Foundation of this team is this three guys right here.
I agree.
The only thing I will say about this line is I think Matt Martin has a Josh Bailey length leash this year.
Yeah, he's been a kind of a possession hog, or Corsi and Fenwick have not been kind to Matt Martin. So yeah, I don't see him being given a much longer leash, if any, than Bailey. I agree with you, Shane.
And now let's look at the defensive pairings. Our first pair, Nick Leddy and Johnny Boychuk,
Yeah,
the
we
two
talked
new
about
guys.
Terrible. I don't know why. This is awful.
We need to trade Boychuk like now.
This is just,
Get those picks back. No, we talked about that. Let's move on. That's a fantastic pairing.
All right, pair 2 is Travis Hamonic and Thomas Hickey.
I rather.
Love it if Hammer steps up his game. Hammer had a really, for me, off season last year. Thomas Hickey, I think, for what we got him.
We lost you there, Andy.
I think we lost Andy there. He cut out a little bit.
Oh, I said that if Hammer has to rebound and have a better year, and stop giving so much room when opposing forwards come over our blue line. Thomas Hickey, I thought last year was probably our most consistent. I'm going to use the word best lightly, so I'm not going to use it at all. Most consistent defenseman, and for what we got him for was fantastic.
Rich, what do you think?
I think I would have rather have seen Donovan instead of Hickey there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where to put Donovan. I'm thinking about Donovan in this moment. Where do I put him? But I like this. What can you do? No Dahan, no Viz. This is a good combo.
I think Hickey is one of the unsung defensemen of this team. I think he's much better at for. I think he's better than media gives him credit for. He reminds me of a little, but knows how to use his body and his stick well enough to play good defense for the Islanders. And let's look at pair number 3, the final pair. This is the pair that makes me shudder a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Brian Strait and Griffin Reinhart.
Guys, would you put Donovan on this line if you had a choice?
I have 2 words for Strait. Strait. Do you believe I just said Strait? I have 2 words for Strait and Reinhart. And these are 2 words that I'm going to burn in my memory for Friday and Saturday. Sheltered minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot get this pair out against the Hurricanes' first line. It just can't happen.
And I don't, honestly, Rich, I don't think Donovan would have been the answer on this pairing either, because if you pair him with Strait, it's the same situation he dealt with last season, and if you pair him with Reinhart, they're both too inexperienced.
I think Strait would be an upgrade for Dono over Karkner, and again, no offense, but Karkner and Martinek, I think Strait is an upgrade over those two.
It'd be interesting to just for spitballing purposes, Reinhart and Hamonic. That would be interesting.
That'd be an interesting pair. And then you put Hickey with Strait.
Exactly, and that would Hickey would be the more responsible defenseman. Maybe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's.
I could see that happening if Reinhart proves he could play.
Yeah,
because Hammer's going to be out there against the better lines. Obviously, they're going to try and get Leddy and Boychuk out there, but think about the minutes Hamonic played when Amac was still on the team, and they were out there against Crosby and Malkin every shift.
Yep.
So they have the faith in Hammer to play against top lines. They're not going to pair him with Reinhardt right now.
Who do you put on a power play before we move on? Who do you put on a power play? Who do you put on
Boychuk, Nielsen, Tavares, Okposo, and Conacher.
Conacher? Okay.
And then second unit, Nelson, Strome, probably Grabowski, and then Letty, and people are gonna hate me, but Bailey.
No, I wouldn't hate you for that. That's good. I like Bailey on that.
I would probably put Strome on the point and let Bailey play forward with Nelson and Grabowski.
You would have put a forward over a defenseman for the point at this point with the guys we have?
Yes, because we're missing the two main guys besides Boychuk and Letty. We're missing Viz and Dahan. Hamonic can't quarterback a power play. He's one of my favorite defensemen on the team, but he can't quarterback a power play. Reinhardt's too young. If Straight sees any power play minutes, I think I'd burn my eyelids off. And I don't think Hickey has enough experience yet to quarterback a power play. So I think you'll see Boychuk on one, Letty on the other, with a forward on beside them.
Okay, I have to agree with that.
All right, let's fly through a couple more questions real quick, easy ones. Barry, does Capuano have the horses to finally play the system he needs to execute? Yes, no need to expand on that. Tom Ballantyne, speed, skill, strength, it's everything you want from a top line. It's not a bad, it's not a bad way to go about it, Tom. It's a good way to think about it. Pete, what are everyone's thoughts regarding Brooklyn and the team's future there? We'll answer that last for obvious reasons. On that subject, let's hear about the Fishermen. No, Pete, please go away if you're going to continue to ask silly questions like that. Thank you very much. Tom Ballantyne, if Martin doesn't play well, do you think Colin is plugged in for him? I don't think Colin brings necessarily what Martin brings in terms of physicality. The Islanders, for some strange reason to me, seem to like C-Mac's straight-ahead game. And by straight-ahead, I mean skate straight ahead, dump it in, and skate straight ahead. What do you guys think about that?
I lost you. What was that last part?
If Martin doesn't play well, is McDonald plugged in for him? And I was saying the Islanders seem to like Colin McDonald's straightforward game, and by straightforward I mean skate forward, dump it in, skate forward.
I don't know if they like it. I think they just have to tolerate it. But you know what? I go back to Anders Lee. If Martin fails us, you got to bring Anders Lee. He has the bulk, he has the brains to play this game at this level.
And you know what? I think Anders Lee could make this fourth line even better than it already is if Martin doesn't play well.
I agree.
I like Lee and Clutterbuck, and I think Cizikas has more offensive upside than people give him credit for.
I mean, he wouldn't be wasting away on that fourth line. I'm sorry. It's not that kind of fourth line. It really isn't.
A player like Strome would be a waste on the fourth line, but a player with the size and strength of Lee, I think would fit perfectly. Let's move on to another one of Tom's questions. I really like this question. When do you expect Chad Johnson to make his debut? And I have 2 games in mind.
Look, Friday night we have the opener in Carolina. Without a question, that's going to be Yaroslav Halak.
Oh.
I'm covering Saturday's game at the Coliseum, so that will be Chad Johnson. That'll be Chad Johnson.
I don't think there's any way Jack Capuano doesn't start Yaroslav Halak in the home opener. I think you see Halak back-to-back, get a couple days off. I think you see Halak against the Rangers, and then I think Johnson comes in either the 16th at home against San Jose or the 18th in Pittsburgh. But I'm thinking more the 16th.
I think Halak gets two-thirds of the starts if he's healthy.
I think he gets all 3 to start the season, though.
Well, there are 10 games in October. I think Johnson gets at least 3.
3, yeah, right. Yeah.
I just don't think it's any of the first 3, because I think you want, if Halak is your, air quotes here, number 1, I think you want him playing the season opener, you want him playing the home opener, and you want him playing the first game against the Rangers of the season.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So then I think we see Johnson first on Thursday the 16th against San Jose.
Yeah, it's out of division, it's out of conference. I think so.
Tom, think Reinhardt gets PK time, or would they stick with the top 2 pairings on it? I think they stick with the top 2 pairings on it. Again, the key for me with Griffin Reinhardt, especially early on, is sheltered minutes. He did not look he looked very inconsistent in camp to me. He looks like he still has a little bit of a ways to go, so I wouldn't be throwing him out there against the team's power play units at this point. Barry, would it be fair to say that proven scoring winger depth is the weak link? Will center depth overcome that deficiency? That's a great question.
I think absolutely that's the weakest link on this team. I think the wingers, obviously, if you look down both sides of the depth chart, there is no high scoring experience on this team down the sides. Down the middle, I think we have the experience to go far. Down the sides is where we're gonna hurt if we hurt. But I think that I do believe the center depth could help with that. I think Acoso has another good year, and mark my words, right now, Josh Bailey has a breakout season.
Oh boy.
I hope so. Shane, in all seriousness, I hope so.
But I do think that is the weakest part of the. I think up until a couple of days ago, it was the defense, and now it is definitely the wing, the depth at wing that is the weak point on this team.
Right, like the question said, the scoring depth specifically.
Right, not so much talent depth, but the experience, like the experience of scoring.
Right.
Now it's going to be lack of goals that we score as opposed to stop. So let's see. I mean, I hope not. Oposo's notoriously streaky. He starts slow. Let's see.
Tom, to answer your question about Halak versus the Sharks, I don't buy into that experience against another team stuff. Some people do. But just for reference, last year Halak started 3 games against the Sharks and had a 3.94 GAA and an 875 save percentage. So I don't think that's much of a factor at all, to be honest with you, in terms of if Halak starts against the Sharks, just based on experience.
So now, before we move to Pete's Brooklyn question, I did ask on Twitter earlier in the week and again today what people thought Garth's best off-season move was. We got a couple of answers. Josh Lenton at JLenton39 said the Boychuk Leddy moves were the best moves of the off-season. Rob McGregor at Rob McGregor35 said it was Yaroslav Halak. I believe this is at Blue Cheese, BLEUCHZ. He said the combination of Halak and Johnson, and then Richard Zimmerman at Rich J. Z-Man. He didn't say which team would pick up and move, but he did say that he sees the Islanders as possible Metro Division champs, and the Soriano Network at Soriano Network called the Islanders a playoff team, which I think most of us have the same feelings.
You know, Pete, if Halak is hurt, they go with Johnson. End of story.
But why are we even? No, I wasn't even going to answer that question because I didn't even want to say those words out loud.
Well, he asked it. I wanted to answer it. It takes 2 seconds to answer it. Not something I'm going to go into any much more than that they would not start Kevin Poulin over Chad Johnson.
And to Barry Richmond, why is Leddy playing on the second power play unit? I think that's because they give Boychuk the go on the first, and if you put Boychuk and Leddy on the same power play unit, who does that leave you for the second?
Right.
And I think Boychuk gets the nod first solely because of his shot. I think Nielsen could quarterback it from the blue line. Tavares can quarterback it from the sidewall. And I think Boychuk gets the point for his shot. And then I think Leddy gets the second power play unit because, like I said, if you put Leddy and Boychuk on one, that doesn't leave you much offensive upside for 2.
Now, Pete wants to hear our thoughts on Brooklyn. This is a dangerous question because it invokes so much passion from the fan base. I'll be brief, I promise. Look, I'm sorry at what happened. I'm sorry that the politicians in Long Island couldn't get this thing done for you guys. I really am. As a Staten Islander and now New Jersey, and ever since I've been an Islanders fan, it's always been kind of a trek for me to get out to the Coliseum. So the commuting angle doesn't hold any water with me, and I don't even listen to those arguments when people say, "Oh, but the commute." Look, I've been doing it for as long as I've been a fan, so that's not good. But in terms of losing your team, in terms of losing the only real professional sports team that has ever been in Uniondale, it's a tough pill to swallow. As long as the finger is pointed at the right person, and that's the Nassau County politics, and not the team, not the ownership of the team, who tried to keep the Islanders in that same exact location. In terms of Barclays, it is a absolutely fantastic venue, gorgeous building. Yes, it has some sightline issues. Yes, it has a scoreboard issue, but there's always a buzz in that place. That's what I noticed. That's what stood out to me. It's just, even during intermission, there's just always a TV timeout. The place is just always buzzing. and it's so modern. It's the kind of modern building that this team at this point deserves to play in. And I just don't see it not being a success. Not when you add into that the guaranteed revenue stream that they're getting as part of the deal.
I think of being a fan 30 plus years gives me the right to say what I'm about to say, which is Long Island politics did this to the team and not, like you said, the organization itself. I do feel for the fans that live out in the Long Island, deep in Long Island, that this is their team. They feel affinity towards them, and going to Brooklyn is going to be a trek. But I want to inform everyone that I just take my dad and I at least an hour and change to the game, an hour and change back, and we did it for 20 years, okay? And we didn't ask for package deals. We didn't ask for train tickets. We just did it because we loved the team. Now, times have changed. Things are more expensive than they are, and I understand that, going to Brooklyn for a lot of people who live out in deep in Long Island is it's going to be difficult. But I saw things at the Barclays I have never seen at the Coliseum, a whole new fan base. If you want to be a part of this team, do what you have to do to get to the game. If you decided that they've alienated you and you feel slighted, then so be it. There's nothing we can do other than we wish you well and hope you like the Rangers because there's nothing else for you. I honestly think that what I saw at Barclays was 12,000 human souls watching a preseason game. I've never seen that before, except at the Barclays. So you want to say that Brooklyn's a bad venue, sightlines be damned? I'm sorry. People want hockey in Brooklyn, and they're going to get hockey in Brooklyn, and it's going to be great in Brooklyn.
I haven't been to Barclays, so I can't speak to the experience at Barclays. Obviously, I feel for the Long Island fans who are used to being able to have a short drive to see the Islanders play. Obviously, not a short drive for myself. When I would go see them play, it is about an hour at least, if not more, depending on traffic driving out there. So I could say I'm happy. I'd much rather have them play in an arena where the scoreboard is off center, but I could go to the game than them be in Kansas City or Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, I understand why people wish they were still in Long Island. But I think at this point, everyone understands and knows why they're not. But I am looking forward to my first game at Barclay, whenever that is next season.
You're gonna love it, Shane. You're gonna love it.
That and it cut my commute essentially in half, which is absolutely fantastic. Maybe I'll get home at like a normal hour finally
And
from an Islander game.
the funny thing for me is if you think about if anybody took what I said with with any kind of seriousness and listened to what I said, this is coming from a person who doesn't get any real benefit from this. Right? Let's make that clear. My commute to Barclays might be a little better from my office, but from on the weekend, it's worse, believe it or not. For me, where I am in central New Jersey to get to Barclays, for me is worse than going to the Coliseum. So those comments for me anyway were coming from that perspective. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and again, I mean, if you love this team, you do what you can to be a part of it. And you don't throw them under the bus. You understand that, we don't control this, and we just take it, like you said, it could be Kansas City, it could be Quebec, and I wouldn't root for this team if they went there. I wouldn't.
That's a little far, Rich. I'd still root for them.
No, I wouldn't.
We just wouldn't be able to go to any of the games, obviously. But there's no way I couldn't root for them.
There's no more passionate people in the Coliseum than right Section 329, the BOA, the Blue and Orange Army, and they're even. And let me tell you something. They were for a while on the fence when this first happened. I know I spoke to a couple of them in the parking lot before a couple of games, and they were really unsure if they were going to be able to make that kind of trip. And they're now banding together and are going to be going out to, are most likely going to be going out to Brooklyn as a group still. And that's huge for the fans. That's huge because they're going to bring that Coliseum rowdiness and that Coliseum experience and the chants and the songs into Barclays and try to make it, feel like home, even though it never will in reality. Barry, do I think Howie Rose was spot on today on the fan? I do.
Yep.
I do. I think Howie nailed it on the button. Howie's very passionate, and I think his passion showed through today. I wish he would have gotten more time, but yes, I agree with you. Absolutely nailed it.
All right. So there's a couple of rule changes in the NHL that I do want to touch on before we get out of here. I know this is an Islanders podcast, but obviously things that change in the NHL affect the New York Islanders. The most significant is one that I had mentioned in a post that I had written earlier in the summer about possible rule changes, and that is overtime changes. And they are going to dry scrape the ice before the 5-minute overtime period, as well as force the teams to switch sides to start the overtime period, meaning that there will be cleaner ice and longer changes, which in my opinion will lead to more goals and less shootouts. Change or a negative change, Andy, go.
Positive. I mean, I'm a fan of overtime. You know I'm not a fan of the shootout, so I'll just move on from there.
Rich?
I agree with you, Shane. I think if it can lead to more goals and more resolution in overtime, I'm all for it.
One rule that I am anxious to see how this will be taken care of throughout the season, especially with my eye on the Pittsburgh Penguins, is they are going to take a stronger stand against diving during a game. They don't want this turning into the NBA.
Or FIFA.
So I think it's a positive rule change, I guess you could say that. I'm just more interested in how it's actually going to be enforced throughout the season. Now, one rule that is a little complicated, I guess, and weird, but I like it, is the face-off changes that they've made. Everyone knows you can't make a line change when you ice it. So what a lot of teams were doing is they were sending in their winger to get kicked out of the face-off to give your defenseman a little bit more of a breather, and then let your center come in and actually take the face-off. Now, if a face-off violation is committed, you are no longer kicked out. The same person has to take it. A second violation is an automatic penalty.
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
I like it.
I could take it or leave it.
That's how I feel with it too. I could take it or leave it. I think it was obviously pretty smart of coaches and centers and wings to go out there and find a way to get themselves a little bit more rest before taking that icing face-off. But I could take it or leave that. And now, one rule that I think could actually affect the New York Islanders, especially with the speed of Michael Grabner and now Corey Conacher, is a rule change to the tripping penalty. And now, if you're ahead of it used to be where if you dove and made contact with the puck initially and then knocked the player over, it wasn't a tripping penalty because you made contact with the puck. But now, no matter where you contact the puck or what you do when you dive, if your dive causes the player skating to fall, it's an automatic penalty. I think that could be very big for Michael Grabner with his speed.
Yeah, I'm not sure I love the rule, though. I think that as a defenseman, so now basically they're saying as a defenseman, if a guy gets past you, you are
done,
quote-unquote, defenseless to leave your feet. Even if we've seen great plays before from defensemen leaving their feet, and I'm not sure I agree with that at all.
I don't like the rule. I think it will be a huge asset to Michael Grabner, but I do not like the rule. I think if you make contact with the puck, that should be more than enough to negate any penalty, because I do like those plays. I like seeing those last-ditch efforts from defensemen who were beat. But I don't like that rule changes to start the NHL season this year.
Agreed.
Which is underway tonight. I can't wait to go watch the late games. Thank God hockey's back.
Yeah, well, hockey back, and I'm sorry to go off topic for a second, but Sunday, The Walking Dead returns as well. So I am very happy right now. Very happy with my TV right now.
I've actually never watched that show.
Outstanding. I absolutely love it, and they're planning a spin-off as well.
That is interesting.
I absolutely love the show. I'm like obsessed with it. Like an unhealthy obsession, by the way. Definitely an unhealthy obsession.
I think that about does it for us tonight, guys. I like this question and answer section of the Google Hangout. I think that is something we're going to do more often. I really kind of enjoyed that. So if you enjoyed being a part of it, make sure you guys tune in next week on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Hopefully Michael Wilhoff will be with us next week. But for now, Andy Graziano at Tasman19. Is there anything you'd like?
No. No, thank you very much for listening and reading and supporting us and buying our T-shirts and all that stuff. We truly appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.
Rich Diaz Rodriguez at RDNHL. Is there anything you would like to plug?
No, just to thank our fans and our listeners. Thank you always for your support, and looking forward to the new season.
And I am Shane Blackburn. You could follow me at ShaneBNHL. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you check out IslandersInsight.com, the DumpandChasePodcast.com. Make sure you guys tune in every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. There are no Wednesday games in October, so we will not have to move the night of the show for at least the month of October. Make sure you check them out. Friday, October 10th, Saturday, October 11th, and Tuesday, October 14th. All 3 games at 7 p.m. The Islanders start their season with a home-and-home against the Hurricanes, and then they head into Madison Square Garden to take on the New York Rangers. Once again, thank you guys for listening to the Dump and Chase podcast. I'm Shane Blackburn. They are Andy and Rich. Unfortunately, we will Michael Wilhoff-less tonight. And until next week, thank God hockey's back, and let's go Islanders. Okay.
What?
Are we still live?
We're still live.
We're in post-show.
We're in post.
We're in post-show mode. That was good. Good show. The Q&A thing was fun. It was the Q&A thing was as fun as doing the call-ins, with probably easier and less worries about technical problems.
So much easier on my end.
There was a comment by Barry about the questions, though. He says,
I saw that.
Can we screen questionnaire so we don't waste valuable time in future podcasts?
Yeah, I guess he figured somebody asked a stupid question.
Well, my favorite question that we didn't answer was Tom asking, isn't it past Pete's bedtime?
Yes, Tom did ask that. Yeah. There were a couple that we didn't answer, Barry, so we did screen them.
And it's so much easier to screen questions than it is to screen calls, trust me.
Yeah, I think I like this. This is really good because it still allows for interaction. I mean, I still really enjoyed the call-in thing, but I don't think we got that down to the science of, you know what I mean, where basically a caller is supposed to call in, ask his question, and then we're supposed to let them go. Because then what happens is we end up getting into a 15-minute discussion with that caller, and by the time you know it, you're 15 minutes in the hole of what you originally wanted to talk about in the first place.
By the way, did anybody notice what I've had up on the screen for the past, 20 minutes?
Yeah. I definitely did, sure.
What?
I was expecting a comment.
Oh, you mean on the new screen with the player pictures and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh,
I liked it.
Fisher.
I thought it was good.
Oh,
now it's the fisherman. Oh,
do you see what's up now?
Now I see what's up. Yeah, now I see the fisherman logo, yes.
You suck.
But I like this thing. This was really cool the way you were able to live interact with it and put the lines up there and then put the player's picture that we were talking about in the middle. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, so I'm excited to keep doing that all year. So
next year we'll have our new audio mic. Myself and Rich will have our new mics, so we'll sound more in tune with Shane's audio. And then Shane's going to be working on a new intro for the podcast. We've actually gotten clearance from the Islanders to get some cool stuff. I'm just going to say. I'm going to tease it and leave it at that to make a new intro for the show. So. A lot of improvements coming down the pipeline for the Dump and Chase podcast.
Before I leave, I wanted to ask you a question that I wasn't able to on the podcast itself, which is, if you're Jack Capuano, better still, if you're Garth Snow, I mean, how long do you keep these lines meshed as they are, potentially as they are, before you start changing to see if you can rally up some chemistry?
Well, you're not going to change all 4 of them at once. That's too dangerous, I think. I think you probably experiment with maybe swapping one guy with another guy and see if that works. I think it's so fluid. We've seen Jack do it during games, right?
Right. But what I'm saying is, how long do you think the first line, if you will, has, how long is their leash before you start tinkering with that?
Maybe a week, maybe.
Huh?
A week, I'm guessing. It's just a guess.
Yeah, about a week, about 2-3 games, and then you start thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a guess, but maybe a week.
What do you think, Shane?
I think they have until December.
Really?
No. No, I think they have like 2 or 3 games. Although I think 2 or 3 games is a little short because Conacher didn't really play with them all training camp. I think Conacher needs a little bit more time. So I'd say probably like the first 5 games is Conacher's, because I don't think it's a matter of changing the first line. I think Tavares and Okposo are set, and it's just who's going to be the third player. So there is no they're going to change the first line. They're just going to change Conacher. So I think Conacher gets 5.
Yeah.
Although if Okposo goes back to the Okposo of a couple of years ago, maybe we see him moved. And I do think Josh Bailey has a fantastic year. And I'm not just saying that because I like him. I think he has a Kyle Okposo-esque breakout season.
I just hope both of them have a couple.
Not if he plays anything like he did in camp, that's for sure.
He's saving it for the regular season.
He was a dog in camp, dude. A dog.
Was he that bad?
Yeah. He was a dog.
That's rough.
Yep. Not good.
I'm just really excited for Dahan to come off IR.
Yeah, that should be the end of next week. Next weekend, I'm thinking. Is my thought.
He's the only one who I'm really anxious to come off. Wisnowski, I hope he comes off soon, and I really would like Wisnowski to be back in the lineup, but I don't think he makes or breaks. Grabner is obviously a huge asset, but I'm afraid to see what Capuano does when Grabner comes back.
Yeah.
Dahan's really the one that I really just want to come back, like now.
Yep.
I just hope it's nothing serious.
This is true. I don't think it is, but we'll see.
All right, gentlemen.
I'm out too, my fellas. Thank you very much for a good show.
Hope you guys had fun listening and watching. And
Shane, you're gonna have the recorded version tomorrow, right?
I'm gonna have the YouTube one goes up relatively quickly, and the recorded podcast version will be up tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Shane, as always.
Hey,
thanks, boys. Thanks, Shane. Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for listening.